is subdued. Straight, simple lines, no giant crazy fins. The front end is, well, I'd say tasteful. It's just not so Exner. By 61, when this Saratoga was built, things were very interesting. I actually think this is a really cool car. I think most forward-look cars are. I think I've babbled about the outside of the car enough. Time to look under the hood and see what treasures wait beneath. Oh, yeah, it's one of those things. This is the 1955 Chrysler Firepower 331 single 4-barrel engine, colloquially known as the first generation Hemi. Of course, at the time Chrysler was producing these engines, they didn't call them a Hemi. This was known as the dual rocker engine, or simply Chrysler's V8. If you know anything about top fuel dragsters, then you probably know a thing or two about the original Firepower Hemi. This was a pretty fantastic design with lots and lots of power potential. In this car, in its original factory form, that potential wasn't exactly realized. I don't remember what the horsepower number for this car is, but it's well below 300, let's just say that. Of course, the 300 moniker on the 55 Chrysler 300 was supposed to denote 300 horsepower, cranking out of the dual quad 331 dual rocker engine. Whether it actually made 300 horsepower or not, well, it's probably up for debate. This is not the first 331 I've featured on the channel. That distinction belongs to a 53 Imperial, which I called a limo. People are still correcting me about that, and it's been like a year. Compared to that earlier 53 two-barrel engine, this thing should be a bit more exciting, but again, still not a powerhouse by any means. Wow, there's actually liquid in there. Okay, yeah. Oil's almost full. Smells like oil, only slightly dirty. Oh, this is cool. Just found an original inspection stamping. That one says, okay, trim 13. There are several others up here, a couple that say paint, and one that says okay, final 12. I noticed the stamp because I was looking at this. You may recognize this as a 67 and later dual circuit drum brake master cylinder and later booster. Compared to what would have been on this from the factory, that's a good setup. And the fact that there's actually some fluid left in it gives me hope for the brake pedal to do something. Unfortunately, I can tell you, I crawled in this thing in Spokane, in spite of the horrible smells, and that brake pedal is rusted solid, so more on that in a bit, I guess. My original 55 New Yorker sedan had like 59,000 miles. It might have been 56,000 miles. Part of the deal for that car was I had to pull the engine out and give it back to the guy, which sucked because I got it fired up and drove it around the block, and it was pretty cool. It did tick, though. It didn't necessarily run the best. When I got the engine out, I pulled the valve covers, and they were completely, horribly coated in nasty carbon deposits. Because it turns out oil changes weren't really a thing that people did in 1955. Well, it doesn't look totally horrible down there. What do you think my chances of having a working carburetor are? Well, if you said low, you win a prize. The choke is seized solid too. Oh, the linkage moves, just not what it's attached to. This is quite interesting, because as far as we know, this thing has been stored inside since the 90s. This might not be easy. Before I get too excited about the seized carburetor, I should probably find out if this engine turns at all. Luckily, it does have a solid fan. I've already reached down and grabbed it once. That was before we ever loaded the car. And I couldn't get stuff to happen. So I'm going to mess with this for a minute. Oh, there it goes. Nice. Okay. Yeah, this thing's going to be a runner. No problem. I am noticing something not super ideal down here. There's an idler pulley that moves a lot. Like the whole bracket is deflecting. We've got a shot here. Crankshaft turns. I'm going to see about unseizing the carburetor, and then I suppose we can throw some kind of battery in this thing, see if any of the electrical stuff works, and then find out if the starter's still winning with us. I packed the trunk of the car with all kinds of useful stuff, but I didn't grab penetrant spray for some reason. All right, walking 100 feet, both directions. You may or may not know that we were actually planning to revive some of these cars in Spokane when we picked them up. Unfortunately, well, we didn't have enough time. We ended up being there for an entire extra day, and that wasn't enough time. Tom actually had to go back and get more parts and move cars. It was supposed to be called Rapid Fire Revivals, and it would have been awesome. Anyway, I'm going to use a house beater to carefully massage the various components on this carburetor and see if I can get it to do that thing we like. You know, carburate, I guess. Wow, the needles are even stuck, and there is a piece of linkage missing. We don't have An accelerator pump rod. That's going to be a problem. Dude. Wow. Yeah, the vacuum piston